Go ahead and shock here. Too many Garys. Hi everyone, welcome to week 4 of 52 standard decks, and this week I have a real treat for you. I am going to be playing Clone Gary. This deck is based on the workshop deck from a couple weeks ago. I basically tuned it to make it more competitive. We're going to be running it through a standard event. The main idea of this deck is to play out a Gray Merchant of Asphodel, lovingly known as Gary, after you've built up some devotion to black, and then clone Gary using effects like Quasi-Duplicate, Spark Double, and Nightmare Shepherd. The way that this deck functions is early on, our 2-drops mostly serve to disrupt our opponents and slow them down. So we have 3 Burglar Rats and 4 Yarok Fenlurkers to limit their resources. We also have 2 Timuret chosen from death. There's a lot of decks that use their graveyard quite a bit right now, so I feel like it's really important to be able to interact with that in game 1. And the 2 black pips help build up our devotion to black. We also have 2 Order of Midnight, just to buy back some of our creatures, and sometimes, actually quite often, to pressure our opponent with a 2/2 flyer on turn 2. In the 3-drop slot, we have 1 Murderous Reaper to try and build up some resources if we are running low on them. We have 3 Murderous Riders to interact with our opponent's creatures and planeswalkers, as well as to build up some black devotion and give us a little bit of a speed bump for the more aggressive decks. 3 Ayara, First of Locthwain. This card has been an all-star. One of the most broken starts you can have is a turn 3 Ayara into turn 4 Spark Double, copying Ayara. This is a really cool interaction. Spark Double takes legendary creatures and makes them non-legendary when you copy them. So you can actually have 2 Ayaras in play at the same time with Spark Double. And then turn 5 Gray Merchant. The 3 Quasi-Duplicate are excellent, just a really cheap way to copy a Gray Merchant, and also a nice insurance policy against counterspells, as it does have Jump Start, so you can cast it again from your graveyard. The Spark Doubles, again, mostly used to copy Ayara and Gray Merchant, although things like Atris and other value creatures are also valid targets. The 4 Nightmare Shepherds, a 4/4 flyer alone for 4 is not a bad rate. And the fact that when your creatures die, you can bring back a copy of them as a 1/1, and pretty much all of our creatures have enter the battlefield effects. Obviously, this is best with Gray Merchant, but it works with other creatures as well. The 1 Atris, just a really solid card to generate some advantage and some value. 4 Gray Merchant are the centerpiece of the deck. This is our main game plan. We are trying to clone this as many times as we can. It doesn't take too many to win the game outright. And then the 1 Cavalier of Night is our other 5-drop. Another way to interact with our opponent. It's a nice big life linker if we're low on life. And the 3 black pips mean if we resolve this before we clone Gary or before we play Gary, that's going to be a lot of extra life total swing. I did go up to 2 Castle Locthwain, another way that we can ensure ourselves against running out of gas. And I added a land to the original deck. I think it's a lot more consistent when it has 26 lands. It allows us to play out Gary on turn 5 much more of the time. In the sideboard, we have 4 Aether Gust, tons of green decks and red-based decks out there. 2 Agonizing Remorse for the more controlling matchups. 2 Tyrant Scorns for some early interaction. 2 Mystical Disputes. 2 Cry of the Carnarium. 2 Farrakha's Libation. This one I want to talk about for a second. I think this is an awesome card to bring in against both Temur Reclamation and Jeskai Fires. The fact that it is modal is really helpful post-board. Oftentimes they'll board into a game plan where they are bringing in Robber of the Rich or Legion Warboss, and having this up to potentially have them sacrifice that creature and still be a way to deal with their namesake enchantments is really helpful. This is just a really good utility card, so I'm excited to try this out. And then 1 Thought Distortion. I am playing a lot of Temur Reclamation players, and I'm just hoping to get somebody with this during the course of our gameplay. So that is the deck tech. I hope you enjoyed it and join me for the matches in the upcoming videos. Bye.